This is the story of a man, a warrior, the embodiment of the idea of samurai. Nay, much more than that. A killer so fearful he was dubbed the Ghost of the Blood Moon. Shishore was his name, a name truly fitting of a man who leaves nothing but death behind. However, Shishore was not always this god of death. Our story takes us back to 13th century Japan, to an era following the Mongol invasions, one unrecorded in history due to the infamy of its events. Shishore was just another Japanese samurai, on his way to battle against the Mongol invaders, when him and his companions were ambushed while crossing a dangerous mountain terrain. The Mongols had set a trap, one that effectively sent Shishore's group crashing down the mountain through an explosion. The shock of the impact left him unconscious, as he had survived an impossible fall to the jungle tangent to the mountain. However, the silver lining ended there, as upon waking up hours later, he found his comrades around him mutilated by the fall. They weren't as fortunate as he was. 35 samurai all dead. Shishore wept. Among the corpses were his 2 brothers who had been through hell with him, as well as other friends he had deemed family. When he had finished mourning, he gathered his resolve and assessed his situation. Though he had survived, he was gravely injured, but the hand of God had prevented his fatality. 2 broken bones in his left leg, a broken arm and dislocated shoulder, major wounds all across his body, and traumatic shock to his head. Needless to say, he had struggled to move even an inch. However, what was on his mind was not his injured body, but rather the singular thought of raining vengeance upon those who had caused this tragedy. This kept him going. Through sheer willpower, he tended, as best he could, to his injuries with natural medicinal plants he had found, and walked forward to explore his surroundings. With a heavy heart, he abandoned the bodies of his comrades, thinking that he would eventually come back for them. But for now, his priority was survival. I must survive. I must return. I must! But his thoughts were interrupted by a seemingly miraculous sight. It was the middle of the night, but a white light was shining from a desolate cave. The thoughts of this being man-made did not cross his mind. As if this were a fire, it would glow the colors of fire, not white. With nothing to lose, he ventured in. As he approached the source of the light, it started turning shades of red. Finally, he arrived at an open area. What he saw ahead of him was a sword planted firmly in the ground behind a gate. In front of the gate was a spring of sorts, though it was too shallow to be called one. However, as he approached the sword, he saw it. It was a creature of legend, the Divine Dragon. "Do you wish for strength?" the dragon asked. "I do, but they have an army. Their men are as numerous as the grains of sand on the seashore," the man replied. "Fear not, for I have seen the fire in your heart. If you wish for it, I will grant you the strength to overcome them," the dragon replied. "Then I wish for it." "Step into the oasis." And so he did, and as he entered it, his wounds healed and his body was strengthened. Simultaneously, though, he felt a surge of power enter his core, and every inch of his body ached fiercely. Shortly after, he passed out. When he awoke again, it was already morning. He could feel a vivid burning sensation on his back. However, He was back in the middle of the forest, and the cave was gone. Numerous questions flooded his mind, but they could wait. What was important is that he was somehow fully healed, and he still had to find shelter and survive. Wandering further into the jungle, he found a small lake, and using glass he had found from a broken carriage, as well as the reflection from the water, he glanced at his back to see what was causing him such searing pain. What he saw shocked him greatly. It was a tattoo of sorts, a sign of the dragon he had encountered. And though this didn't serve him yet, it proved to him that what he had witnessed the night before was no illusion. Nonetheless, he had found a water source, so all he had to do now was settle down and venture out to explore and hunt for food. Shishore was quite experienced when it came to hunting, so it didn't take him long to bring back a prize to eat. Come dusk, he went to pick up his sword and work up a sweat. However, once he unsheathed it wasn't the sword that had traveled the battlefield with him. Rather, it was one that looked legendary, almost mythical. It was a glowing katana, with shapes carved into the blade. But interestingly enough, the weight of the blade and its distribution were identical to the katana he had always used. He hurried to check the two other swords he had brought with him. They were his precious brother's swords that he had taken for remembrance. But they had not changed. Curious, he took a stance and swung the sword. At that moment, a sentence echoed through his mind. The way of the dragon is fierce, its path concise. It was a strange and unsettling feeling, as if he was remembering something he knew for a fact he had never heard. But with that sentence, his swings became sharper and more precise. He could feel his body moving differently, as if teaching him new martial arts. Taken by this sensation, he carried on training until sunrise. In fact, it was only until the sun had started rising that he realized how much time had passed. He was mesmerized by the blade and the technique he had started learning. But this was only the beginning, the first phase of an unwritten book of ultimate martial prowess. A few days later, and he carried on with his exploration during the day and training at night. When one day, he heard the sound of someone crying in the forest. When he went to explore, he found a girl crying. To be continued. Hello everyone, this is Fury here. I know it's been a long time and I haven't been back. It's been years even. But I hope to change that. Maybe invest a little again in this YouTube channel that I've left dormant for so long. So this is a new series, a new story, an original story I thought up myself that I wanted to experiment with. I didn't want to go too far away from the storytelling perspective, since you guys basically came here for my fanfiction, my storytelling, especially my Demon Slayer texting stories. But I wanted to try something different since, to be completely honest, the Demon Slayer texting story genre has kind of died out in the meantime. So this is a new experiment. I hope that all of you can even give me story ideas for this, or how you think this story should proceed. And let's make this an interactive thing between the viewer and myself, the creator. So I'll try, if I like your idea, I will implement it in the story. Of course, you can also give me other suggestions on other settings that you want me to create a story in. Always open for that, and I have some time on my hands to do that. Anyway, I'm glad to say that I'm back, and that I'll try to go back to a more consistent upload schedule, so that I don't kill you too much with that suspense thing that comes from, unfinished stories. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this part 1, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day wherever you are and whatever time you're watching this at. Peace out.